Alright, so what I'm going to show you today is how to add particles in Motionbuilder. So I'll be adding two particles, this guy is throwing a small ball. I'll add a trail for the ball and then like a small explosion at the end with the particle system in mobile. Okay, so first thing, the particle shaders are in shader. They are called insert shader particles. Okay. I forgot to launch the thing. My bar all messed up. I think it's this one. All right. So the shaders are particles. So what do you need to emit particles? Is an emitter, like a mesh basically, or an object. So any type of object in elements primitives, will be able to use it to attach the particle shader to it. Okay, so I'm just gonna drop in a sphere. It's actually bigger than the ball, and I'm gonna align the position only. I say position only because I don't want to align the rotation. So align translation. I'll scale it down a little bit so that it's smaller than the ball because we don't want to see the sphere. Let me rename it first. So sphere particle trail. Be name specific because in case you have a lot of particles in your scene, it could get really messy. Okay, I'm gonna name my shader as well the same thing. So particle shader sphere. Oh, sphere. How do we know it's a sphere? So I just could put trail. It's fine. It's clear enough. Okay, so it should be right here. Okay, scale that down. So, like I said, I only align the position. I want to keep the rotation. I'll choose local, so you see the pivot, local pivot of the object. So see, the local pivot of the object is the same as the world. This is very important for particles because in the settings of the particle, you see here, there's physics where you modify the speed of the particle, the spread, the speed as well, the acceleration, the delta, this again, the spread too. And you can control the direction of the particles, X, Y, Z. And these X, Y, Z are world coordinates. They're not local coordinates. So imagine your pivot is like this, right? So now your Z is pointing this way instead of this way. So when you're modifying these values, which are world coordinates, they're pushing those values in this way, not using the local pivot. Okay, so it's always better to keep the rotation aligned to the world, which is here, which is this one, the viewport axis, and just attach it to the object that you're adding the particles to. Okay, so what I'm going to do here, not parent constraint, but what I'm going to use is position constraint. The reason is if I parent it, its pivot will start inheriting from the parent, so the pivot will rotate. Okay, so I'm just going to add a position, go in templates, constraints, position, and I'll take the ball or the marker, doesn't really matter, it could be the marker too. So I can take the marker because that's what I'm animating. Source is the parent, and I'll take the sphere, the particle, the emitter, and put it as child. So now the sphere, oops, should follow the marker. Okay, and its pivot point is still aligned to the world. See, so that's the beauty of a position only constraint. It only follows the position XYZ. It doesn't apply the rotation. Okay, I'm just going to scale it up again. It's easier to assign the particle shader. So I'm going to take the particle shader and just drag and drop it. Replace by type. Always replace by type. You will get instant. Scale it back to 0.5. It already starts emitting right away. As you can see. So, I mean, we could leave it like that, or we can start tweaking the values, okay? So it is kind of disappearing really fast. So what I want to do is obviously have like a better trail, okay? So you want to see the settings, you double click on the trail. So the changing the values is real time. So you can start with the quantity. You don't need that many, because if you increase it, we'll add more particles, but you don't actually need more. Okay. Is there somebody waiting? Let's check. Okay, thought there was somebody waiting. So you don't need that many, so we can decrease that. What we need is to increase the size. So now if we increase the size, each individual particle is bigger. Okay. Delta is the difference in sizes, random. So the higher it is, the more you're gonna get smaller, bigger, more random sizes. So this could be low because you want a consistent trail, right? This one, emit from vertex. So you have two options here. By default, it emits from the vertices. So if you look at the sphere, I'm sure everybody knows what a vertice is. The vertice is the point where the two lines meet. So this is a vertex, this is a vertex, this is a vertex. And what it does, it emits, by default, it emits from each vertex. So you have an option to emit from the whole volume, okay, instead of from the vertex. It's already getting better because you're emitting as a volume, not emitting from a particle, right? Um, what else? So the direction is not that bad, but let's say I want the effects, the particles to move, let's say with the wind, like this way, kind of. They're already going up because there's a value on the y, the direction, see? So this is the y, the global axis. So if I increase that, it's gonna go even higher, see? And if you want it to go the direction of it, you just increase that number. So see now, it's kind of going positive z. If you go lower, they will go backwards, kind of. Let's try to maximize this number, minus 99. See, they're going a little bit backwards. If I go positive, they will go this way. Obviously, x is sideways, but in this case, you don't want to go x. You just want to go up and forward, okay? Acceleration. So this is the acceleration of each particle. So if we increase that, let's see what happens. It's the speed the particle travels, okay? So as you can see, it travels way faster now. Delta, you can increase that too. So each one will travel at a different speed. We don't really need that for this example. You can increase the speed of the Z if you want it to travel faster that way. And spread is, let's say you have a comet and you want these crazy spreads on the comet. Instead of being on a straight line, they will kind of scatter and have more spread. Same thing with this. So there'll be more spread as they're traveling. Okay. In this case, we don't really need it. I think I'm gonna try add a little bit more size. Yeah. Lifetime. So this is the lifetime of each particle. So we can try to increase this or maybe decrease it. Okay, they will stay. Okay, so they will stay. Sorry, these I don't usually play a lot with these, so I'm kind of. Progress submission is worth compared to the final. They're all the same. The same. It's your at the end of the class. It's total average of all the assignments. So the last one is the same. It's just I add all the total of all the assignments, and then I divide it by how many assignments, so that you'll get your final grade from that. Okay, so from the beginning, so let's say there's 12. I take the total of all the assignments you got, and then I divide it by 12, and that's how I get you get your final grade. Emit radius. Okay, this increases the radius from the sphere out. Here, particle shading is. I'm not gonna touch these too much. I really don't know what they do. Oh, okay. So additive, I think it's additive to what's behind, or if it's transparent or matte. You can play around with that to get the effect that you want. Does this change anything? changes the color. Smooth lighting. Anyways, play around with these, but you don't really have to. What you could play with is the colors. So right now it's orange to blue. So if we change that, so let's say I want the trail to be black to white. So kind of, or the opposite maybe. So the in color is that's strange. You can play with how much it fades in. Yeah, just experiment with these. It's not a perfect science. You'll have to experiment with it. So the in color is the start color, and the out is the when it's at the end of the life cycle. Global, don't worry too much about it. These are kind of global settings you can play with, but they might they might screw up your particles. So don't worry too much. So only worry about the physics and the shading. Okay. So now I want to be able to obviously start and stop the particles. Okay, so you can keyframe the size so that they disappear before he throws and appear and then disappear again. Okay, so best way is to animate the size. Okay, so at this frame, you want it to be this size, and on this frame you want it to be 0. Okay, so let's see if that worked. There we go. It's kind of small here. Maybe you can offset this, or maybe just do this. So play around with the keys. Yeah, maybe like this. Delay it a little bit. Maybe it's too delayed now. It was better before. I think one key on the off, one key on the on is better. Yeah, it's better because it needs time to generate, and it's kind of disappearing. Oh, okay. It's because it's cutting. Yeah, okay. So obviously we wanted to stop here and create the big explosion after. So here we would key it here, and then at the next frame go down to 0. The opposite of the beginning, okay? Boom. You can keyframe the life here or the quantity to kind of disappear at the same time, or you can maybe just offset them a little bit and see if that works. Yeah, they kind of stay in the air, but maybe it's going to be hidden when the explosion happens, right? So let's do the explosion now. See if it hides those trails. It might hide it because we do a big enough explosion, it's gonna probably hide. Okay. Okay. I think I know why the reason it blends with the background. Let me change my background back to black to see the additive here, display mode. It blends with my blue background, and that's why it's showing so bright. Just want to test something real quick. If I change this back to black, it doesn't change much. It pops a little bit more, but I think we need maybe to change the white. Right, so just trying to get rid of the white color. I don't know why it's so white. I don't know what those. I'm just trying to things here. Yeah, maybe try use simple lighting. It's a little bit less smooth. That's weird. And matte, there's no transparency at all with matte. I don't know what's going on there. Okay, keep it at additive and use simple lighting. I'm sure there's settings here I'm not 100% sure about, so you'll have to experiment. Okay, so let's add the explosion. It's pretty much similar to what I've been doing. So we add another sphere and we align it to align only translation. And then we call this one explosion. Sphere explode. We add another shader. Particles. We call it explosion. And then we drag and drop on this. So again, by default, it's emitting from the vertices. So obviously, if you want to hide the sphere, there's two ways. You can either hide it below the ground. So let's say there's a plane here. I'll add that plane. 0 translation rotation scale. So I want to freeze it so I don't keep selecting it. So I can take this, translate it down, and then the explosion happens on top. Or if you don't have that luxury, let's try adding a reflection map, a reflection shader, or sorry, transparency shader, lighted shader. If we drag and drop this, replace by type, accurate transparency, there we go, okay? Because at the end, you want to At the end, you want to render, so you don't want to render the sphere if you can't put it on the ground or, like, say, in the air. There's an explosion in the air, right? So that's how you kind of fake hide uh, the emitter. Okay, see, it's still there, the mesh, when you select it. There is another option. I think you can just say don't render. I forgot what it was. It's somewhere. But anyways, this is how you fake render it, or make it non-renderable. Okay, so let's tweak the explosion. So again, by default, it emits the vertices. I want to use the scaling volume. I want it much bigger. Size, boom. Can do the spread. It's a little hard on the eyes, yeah. Can I change this color? I don't know why it's so white. Can't figure that out. Do I have lights on there? No, I don't have lights. Oh. It's additive to what? I'm not sure. I have to check that out. I'm not 100% sure. Okay. Sorry, I don't have the answer for the color. I don't know why it's so white. We can still work with it. Can be. Yeah. So the out is this color. Anyways, maybe this is better. Translucent. I mean, this looks like an explosion. If we change, let's say, orange to red. No, the opposite we want. Yeah. See, it's fun. It's fun to play around with it, just to get what you want. Could it be this? No. Maybe a little blue. No. Yeah, as you can see, it's a little bit limited. It's not perfect. Let's go with something. Maybe I need lights on there. That's why it's flicker. It's changing, so I might need lights. So you can play with the settings until you're happy, and then we can animate the animate the scale to get the explosion at the right time. Okay, so can animate the speed, increase the speed, the spread. Let's see what that gives. We got the right idea. No, it's too much. Radius. We try the radius to see if it doesn't change much. Sure. Let's say it's like this. I don't want to waste. I want to spend more time on the dailies. So same thing we did with the previous one, and on contact. So right here, key it, and then one before to 0. So let's see what that happens. Could be a little bit faster, so maybe we can start it a little bit earlier. There we go. And now I want to actually test it in the rendering to see what happens, if it renders properly. Okay, let me save my scene. And then if we render, it should render fine. Zero to, no need 0, we need 119 to 240. Wow. Step time 1. Motionbuilder from camera. I should put a camera in there. Why not? Let's put a camera, because it's gonna give weird resolution. Always render with a good camera anyway. Elements, camera, and switch to camera. Let's see what that looks like. All right. Render from camera. My camera is 1280 by 720, and let's try that. Any questions on this one before we can start dailies? Anybody that has particle questions for their previs, if it's essential or not? Oh, it's done already. I haven't actually tested renders. That's not the one. Doesn't. Oh, okay. Yes. We can tweak the trail. I just saw the trail keeps going. You can try minimizing it. Looks like more like a smoke bomb than anything. Anyways, it's fun to animate that. It's real time as well, so cool. But yeah, I wanted to try this actually. Uh, you can, another cool particle thing is if you have an object, I've tried this before, if you have an object with a texture, okay, it should be quick. Remember I did this, was it this one? Diff? Yeah. Remember this when I showed you how to add, let's say, a texture on an object? Let's say there's fonts, there's numbers or text on it. Okay, if you apply now a shader to it, it will take the texture and apply it on the particles. So imagine, I don't know, you have, let's say a guy sleeping and you want the Z's to come out of him, you know? Because, you know, let's say you don't have sound. Oh, by the way, I want to show you how to add sound in story mode. So let's say you want an effect like this, like let's say a comic book effect, particles coming out or something like that. Create a texture with the font on, assign it to the emitter, to the mesh, and just apply a particle shader on it. You will, you know, get this effect. Cool. Again, it's additive. You could switch it to matte. So you can get rid of the additive. Additive, I think it blends with the background. That's why. Okay, I'll stop the video unless anybody else has a particle question. Going once, twice, threes.